What's good, y'all? It's Clyde, aka Archangel Zadell, and I'm gonna be going over how to accept death and rebirth simultaneously, and what it means to surrender, and the process of living itself explained. So, the point of life is to experience everything possible that there is to experience. That's the only purpose of life. So the more we experience, the better. And the more we venture into life and wonder, the better. That's literally how we make wishes come true. We imagine a world that we feel is more beneficial to us, and then we act on it to make it happen in a way that we already live in. So, you have to live in the world that you want in the moment that you have, outside of every other thing that doesn't exist in this world, because the only thing that really exists is this right here. That being said, the only way to keep existing is to be constantly in a state of dying and rebirth at the same time. And we do that in different levels and in different forms as well. So that is to say, an example of a death would be silence. So when I was talking before that, and the words were reverberating, in between the words is death. And I had conscious death in that pause. And in the ones after that too. But if you notice, the last three were actually unconscious because I had thoughts running through my mind. And you should actually be able to tell what those thoughts were, because everything is connected through space, or, everything is connected through what isn't in existence, or, the unmanifested, whatever you want to call it to point to it. But you have to realize that it's just what isn't. So what isn't actually connects everything and allows it to be as what is. And that's how you know to see things for what they are and not be tricked into thinking something is what it's not. So, hold on. So, it's important to be able to reflect and realize, what's the different types of death that I'm experiencing now, and then where's the rebirth? So even to exist this very moment, you have to be putting to death something. So you should be aware of what you're putting to death to keep yourself alive, to even be aware in this situation, to hear all this or to experience anything. You have to be aware of that. That's part of gratitude. That's one of the deepest senses of gratitude. Oh, that was a long death. There's a rebirth. Okay, so that is to say that we all know that energy never dies. That's a law of anything in existence. It doesn't die. So we only reform the makeup of the structure of, like, the mathematics, or like the energetic structure, or the frequencies that you choose to listen to, or the vibration that you choose to feel. Because we always make a choice in the present moment, whether we know it or not. So if you feel like a victim at this point, or at any point, just know that you made a choice to take your power away. And if you feel like a tyrant in any way, like you're above anything in this world, then you need to check yourself and realize that everything is on the same level. This vast world, even though I'm in this tiny, boxed in, trapped room, this vast world that we could explore infinitely and never be able to come to an end to geographically if we were to actually physically move around outside of Earth, that world is literally within one single cell of my body in the same size of infinite. And until we can all realize that everything is in everything in that sense and as deeply as that, we're never going to realize that we don't have to, we don't have to force ourselves into any situation. So the reason that we feel like we don't have control over the things that are happening to us is because we're putting our energy in the wrong places. We're constantly putting things to death that we should be rebirthing at that point, and we're rebirthing things that we should be putting to death. It'd be like, if all my life I was trying to get some realizations to help teach like I do now, and I only smoked cigarettes, but I was smoking, just increasing my packs a day, trying to use cigarettes to find my knowledge. And then I would eventually lose my vocal cords because they would eventually mutate to the point of being so harmful. They would need to be removed, or they would swell up to the point where I wouldn't be able to even breathe. So let alone be able to use my verbal powers to spread what I know. So if we're trying to rebirth ourselves in the present moment, we always have to know who we are at the deepest level. And at the deepest level, the only way to say it is we're just nothing. There's nothing there at the deepest level. If I had to describe it, I literally see I'm blacked out all the time without even being on a single drug. I don't need to smoke to not see, to not sense. And that sounds like a paradox, but it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code. You could call it grand life evil. Because this grand life is evil. It hurts all the time, no matter what. But we can also learn to take that pain that we always feel from the death that we experience and feel it as pleasure with the rebirth. But when we get lost in the pleasure of the rebirth, we birth too much. And then we fill up the room that we're in until the door needs to open and it needs to bring in something else. So we need to make a new room. So that's where manifestation comes on a grand scale, where on a lower scale, we're able to manifest things at an instant. Like I can manifest a new vapor in my lungs to help calm any ailment that I feel. And on a grander scale, I may have just burned something alive, burned something that's alive, green. There's something green in there, something purple, something brown in there, all that are alive in some way. And I put it to death to bring a new life into the smoke that I just breathed out. And that puts to death my lungs. So I sacrifice my organ. My organs become Jesus Christ in this point. And they sacrifice for me, which would be Jehovah at that point. And just for, an example to say like, a lion is a type of cat. That's why cats look similar to lions a lot of the time, and especially when they're orange. And then in turn, all of that birth and death allows for a new rebirth of a good feeling in me. And we all know when we feel good, our world goes the way we want it. So no matter what, if we feel good in our control of ourselves, we already know the outcome's going to be what we want. So if we don't feel good, that's sign to retreat, fight. You want to fly away when you don't feel good. And you want to act on that when you don't feel good. Whatever you want to do to remove, whatever you want to die, when you don't feel good, you kill it every time. Whatever way you have to, you kill it. And that's important. Whenever you need to bring something new into this world, whenever you need a good feeling, like when you feel bad, you need to birth something too. Besides just killing the bad feeling, you need to bring in something good, because if you just kill the bad feeling, what's going to happen? It's just going to make a new bad feeling. And that's law. Because if you don't change it yourself, it has its own will, because everything's actually alive. No matter what, everything is alive. Even things that aren't focused on to be called things, and, you know, the things that are already labeled by a society. You know, there are societies that label things that we haven't even become part of to be able to think of to do those things. So it's like, you know, I'm trying to say, you know, there's beings out there that are just as advanced as humans, but they've taken their advancements in a direction that humans haven't focused on to go. And we think we're so smart that we literally think of everything, but we don't, because we can't focus on everything at once. That's literally impossible, because every time we focus on one thing, it literally bursts a new thing immediately in the unconscious, because that's just what the unconscious is. It's just the rebirth unconsciously of what you're focusing on. And then the subconscious is what you feel from that, what you're focusing on, because the thoughts is the focus. That's what the focus point is the thoughts. And then the buildup of those thoughts is the feelings in the heart. So when you rebirth something, you want to make sure you send it positive feeling no matter what. Whatever you feel like that positive feeling is, you want to send it to it. So when you recreate something in this world, you make sure you give it all of your best positive feelings. You don't allow it to feel any of your bad feelings that you haven't wanted to experience. Because we always get what we want, even when we don't get what we want. So when we don't get what we want, that's to learn how to separate the two and to grow into a new thing. Or that's the death and rebirth. So that's to help y'all understand how we're constantly putting to death. Like when I close my eyes or I rebirth my sight after I can't visually use my strongest sense in this dimension. So that would be a cool way to say we could work on our other senses by just simply blinding ourselves, the magic of a blindfold. And then we could rebirth a new sight. So that's the cool part. All right, y'all. I just wanted to tell y'all about that. That's the process of surrender. The process of surrender just means accepting what I cannot control, or accepting the process of death. And then everything is everything, nothing is everything. And we live evil, because life is evil. This is grand life evil. And this is what I love, because it's the only way to be and the only way to know a thing. So I'm gonna accept that forever. I'm always love it. That's the point.